Game number 1 kicks off in King's Rest.
Yes, sir. Here we go. And I want to go back to that point we were making beforehand as we see both teams gearing up to deal with the first section of the dungeon. This is a big make or break moment for Deplete from Beyond. They can secure their spot in the not the grand finals, the MDI finals later on this year just by taking out this match. So they have a lot to play for here. This is like that one meme. What is it? It's M. Bison, where it's like, for you, the day that I came to your village, it was the most important moment of your life, and for me, it was Tuesday.
I don't mean to break up your monologue. The deaths are
bad for sure.
But Dr. J and Clicks, I think, ended up pulling some of those constructs while Rentari was running through with his invisibility potion. The camouflage not powerful enough. I think some mobs got body pulled there. That's rough.
Yeah, that's definitely not what you want to see right away.
Now the minions of Zool are like in a terrible spot.
It's bad. They've messed this whole patrol up really badly. And Method EU, I mean, business as usual for them. They've dealt with almost all the trash already below 20-30%. So no issues whatsoever. They don't need a DK for the AoE damage at all.
Ooh, okay, so something that you can see from Method EU that they're doing a really good job of is historically teams will kite back to where you hit that gong to activate all the trash, but now you can see using those little fire goblets to be able to line of sight the caster mobs as witch doctors so that they can't get line of sight on him, so they're staying grouped up with the champions for a prolonged period of time. That's a very smart play by them.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely smart, because you can see how quickly they dealt with that entire room. Now, of course, the minions will be coming in for them, but they'll be able to just cleave them under the boss, if I'm not mistaken, with like a binding shot, no problem. I mean, they can just cleave them down easily in that binding shot. No problem whatsoever for them there. No fears coming out at all, and they can just, wow, I mean, that was clean. Yeah,
now ends up standing in that circle from the Golden Serpent. Doesn't take too much damage there. He's just keeping the mobs stacked up for even longer periods of time, allowing those hunters to continue to multi-shot to get those rapid reload resets so they can get their aspect of the wild up quicker. Now continuing to just tank that Gale Winds, or whatever the ability is called, from the Golden Serpent there.
Yeah, I mean, if you can take the damage and live to it, there's no problem with taking the damage. Your healer is there to heal you, right? If you take damage, just call for one heal and you're fine.
Is there one heal?
Just one. Just one. That's all you need is a tank. Now he's running out of it. Okay, you caster cursed it. Come on, Tettles.
Man, that didn't do anything.
Okay.
All right, so now Deplete from Beyond has engaged the Golden Serpent approximately 60% behind that of Method EU, while at the same time also 2 deaths behind. They have popped their Bloodlust, however, on the Golden Serpent, trying to chunk through as much of the health of that boss as they can. Rentari doing a good job of he leaps over that construct to dodge out of the way of Suppression Slam instead of trying to get vertical away from it like that.
Yeah, I'm interested in the Bloodlust choice, right? Because you're tailor-making your comp right now. Triple Hunter, of course, is really good for single target damage. So I'm curious, why are you using the Bloodlust in that section of the dungeon, right? We saw Method EU use their Bloodlust for the AoE, which is not necessarily the weakness of Hunter, but when you're talking about what you would more than likely need the extra help for, I feel like it's definitely better used on the AoE, because your hunters are, they don't scale with the haste that insanely on single target. I feel like it was much better used on the AoE, right?
I think that there is definitely merit in either choice.
Sure.
Because it is tyrannical. You could definitely make a use case out of either one because of the fact that it's tyrannical. I think you may be onto something, though, in terms of, like, you may be better off using it on the large AoE pull. Hunters don't have the most freakish on-demand AoE, especially in King's Rest, where a lot of the times they'll end up playing that Vision of Perfection major essence. But just checking the Method EU hunters, they're all actually playing Blood of Enemy. All hunters on both sides are actually playing Blood of Enemy. So something different than what we've seen historically in this dungeon, where you'll have some people playing Vision of Perfection. But you actually do have Frag playing Aspect of the Beast, while the other 2 hunters on Method EU are playing Killer Cobra. So there is something that is different between the hunters, at least.
That's interesting. I wonder what the specific choice for that is, because as far as I'm aware, it's not like that crazy of a difference when you're running with the ridiculous amount of corruption that they have right now. But you can see, I mean, just no issues for them at the start of the dungeons, giving them a pretty massive leave already. I mean, a minute ahead on the first boss is disgusting when you're only 5 minutes into the dungeon. That's a 20% lead. That's NA maths right there. And they've dealt with that second set of Guardians no problem. So they're through the most difficult section of the dungeon, in my opinion, in this first section right now. Of course, they have the bridge to deal with later on. But, I mean, the worst part of this section of the dungeon is pretty much over for Method EU.
Absolutely. First crux of the dungeon is definitely that Golden Serpent room. The next big problem area of this dungeon will be that pull that is after Machimba. We've seen teams do all 3 packs in one. Very, very scary. So the ability to be able to defeat that without a hitch will be monumentally important. Deplete from Beyond has now engaged the Axe Barrage, Guard Captain, Lightning Rod, King pack with both of these constructs. Rentari needs to make sure that he does a good job of juking around. Igloo does a good job of canceling that Lightning Rod cast. As soon as the rod gets its first tick off, then you're able to use Ring of Peace, Typhoon, Engineering Belt Knock, DK's Gorfine's Grasp, whatever else you can use to displace mobs, Shining Force, Thunderstorm, whatever else, and then you can knock it. But
those are a lot of abilities that we're never going to see in the MDI setting. So,
oh wait, why are you flaming my Thunderstorm? My Thunderstorm.
We actually did see a lot of those
reference.
We had an Ellie Shaman. We had an Ellie Shaman in the first season of MDI last year, so a year ago now. We've seen like maybe one Disc Priest ever. It's Ellie.
Yeah, we saw a Disc Priest in the China regional match of the last season of Legion. Last year from Team Sun Sky.
Sun Sky. Hey, they did better than my team did it at the grand finals, so
with their disc.
With their Disc Priest. Smiley face. But Method EU is now gearing up to do this massive pull in Machimba's room with all 3 of those constructs like you were talking about. I mean, this could be dangerous. They don't have a DK to really destroy these blobs, but I mean, the hunters are going to make pretty short work of them still, right?
Yep, you saw Miras, he gets trapped, instantly pops it, or he gets entombed, and he instantly pops his turtle to make sure that he's not going to be getting hit by any of those embalming fluid circles while he's inside of that entomb. So that's a really good heads up play on his part to be able to deal with that. They immediately down the Purification construct, and they know that they're a little bit behind on their cycle on the entomb cast. Actually, no, they're just gonna
they killed one of the internments. Yeah, I think the turtle was also just to dodge a potential Purification beam cast, because there could be some RNG timings where maybe you pulled the Purification construct a little bit later, and then when you get broken out of the tomb, there could be a beam right on your face at the time, and there's nothing you can do to dodge it because you have to jump out in one particular spot. So you put the pre-turtle there just to make sure that it doesn't take any potential damage there. I mean, heads up play. These guys know what could potentially happen, and being able to prevent that just shows what level these guys are on.
So look at that. On the side of Deplete from Beyond, they were actually playing the Purification construct by itself on the bridge, where Method EU is playing the whole entire thing. So it's just a little bit more aggressive of a play coming out from the Method EU guys than Deplete from Beyond. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing that Purification construct by itself. It's very dangerous to pull into this. And if the consistency's not there, then you just kind of have to play it by itself, right?
Yeah, but Perplexed isn't even pulling this into the boss. They waited so long to pull this trash into the boss. It took them so much time.
Well, so they have to wait somewhat. Basically, you can't do it until the first entomb comes out for both sides. But they're making sure that those 2 constructs that cast the entomb go down immediately before that Purification construct that is present on Teeming inside of this Machimba room. They're just going to be looking to dodge this Purification beam here.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had to wait for the first entombs, but it felt like they waited a little longer than Method EU did. Maybe just a little bit less crisp with their movement is the point I was trying to make. But I mean, yeah, it's still able to pull off this pull for the most part. They still do have the this one construct left to deal with by itself, but just dodge the beam and you'll be fine, right? That's all you gotta do at this point.
I mean, Rentari is very scared here. So basically they utilize a clever use of game mechanics on the Machimba the Embalmer to where if you immediately click the sarcophagus or coffins or whatever you want to call them, then you can get your friend out immediately, or spawn a mummy if you click the wrong one. But if you get your friend out immediately, then Machimba no longer does abilities. Machimba will then thwomp your tank. He is one of the hardest hitting bosses in now 100 to 0 by he got meleeed in the back by the brute.
They can drop
That
combat.
is-
They can drop combat. They've dropped combat. They have dropped the combat perfectly. Of course, they have ways to do that, right? They've got feint. Wait, have they? Azalea has. One of the hunters hasn't.
not looking
Okay.
ideal. Okay,
Okay, they're
everything's
fine. They're fine.
Honestly,
Cool.
Not even close.
They're good. They're good. They have a totem to deal with, though. There's a totem in their face. Look at that healing tide totem just sitting there.
Holy moly! Now got melee from behind because the brute spawned 2 yards behind him whenever he immediately spawned, and that kind of caught Now off guard, I think. Oh, dude, that's a scary point. Now it gets knocked up by the brute. Doesn't block, or he doesn't charge back down. You can actually block the brute's knockup. The damage from it, so it's kind of fine if he stands in it. Dude, they're kiting everything back into the chamber room. Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, they kind of needed to at this point, right? They already kited it into the hallway. That was really their only choice at this point, was to keep going down the hallway. They're probably going to go back up it now just to make sure everything stays stacked up. The problem here is with a line of sighting your healer. I don't think they'll pop the Bloodlust here. They could potentially do it, but at that point you wouldn't have it for the 4 obelisk pull, which it looks like they're gearing up to do for the final boss, so I don't think there's any way they're planning on doing that. They could use a lot of pet taunts here to help out their tank on just random mobs, but of course that would reduce a lot of their overall potential damage output if their pets do go down. But look at how dangerous this pull is. Now it's just getting trucked, and that Grievous affix isn't helping it as well, but Azalea is going to be able to heal him out of it. Man, I mean, you could tell just how dangerous this pull is, but Method Eve's presence of mind and mitigation to deal with this pull, the fact that they didn't full team wipe there is pretty insane. Deplete from Beyond, however, is pulling off this pull a lot easier, albeit pulling a lot less than what Method EU did.
Oh, absolutely. I think Now probably popped like one of his major defensives at the very beginning whenever he died, and I suspect that that's why they had to kind of play that pack the way they did, because that's obviously not ideal, right? That's so scary. Method EU is still actually in the lead, even though that they had that major blunder, but this gives Deplete from Beyond a little bit of room to work with, a little bit of room to be able to come back if they are able to capitalize on those mistakes. Method EU have now entered their obelisk realm, and they're all light-footing down the edge. It looks like some of their hunters are not in that Nyalotha realm. They're going to probably be pulling this council boss to be able to pull some of the guys out of that realm. You see Zalia frag, and now we're in that realm. Like I said, Genji and Miraz use that camouflage to be able to just run all the way up, tag Cool the Butcher. Everybody gets pulled out immediately. They don't deal with the obelisk. It just kind of resets.
And the thing about Method EU here, the thing to talk about is, like, what this means, right? That should have been a full team wipe, and for other teams it would have been a full team wipe. We saw it earlier today. I believe it was on Workshop where one of our teams had their tank die instantly on the pull. They tried to all run back from the boss. They tried to feign reset. They tried to shadow meld reset, and they couldn't pull it off. Method EU, you saw the second Now went down, all 4 players just left. They were gone. Didn't try to go for a res. They knew that there was no chance of saving that pull. They were gone. All 3 hunters feigned death. Zalia shadow melded. And even after the fact, when they saw that one of the hunter was potentially still in combat, Zalia knew he had to get even further away. Like, these guys are so on point with their awareness that they can take a potential full team wipe right there and turn it into just 1 death for the team, plus a res cast, able to save the pull. That's why these guys are so good.
I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were asking me why more teams don't practice, like, after you make a mistake. Like, you don't practice from coming back from it at all. And I feel like Method EU definitely will play out some situations that are a little bit more difficult, as opposed to just, oh, they see Now die, they full team wipe, they zone out, they reset the instance, they go again. Because they're on the tournament realm, they have the opportunity to be able to just blast through and do as many runs as they can. But I think the presence of mind, like you were saying, to be able to pull through, very important there.
I think, yeah. I think a lot of people have this idealistic scenario where, like, you don't think you're going to win a match if you don't play perfectly, so there's no reason to practice if you don't play perfectly, but that's just almost never the case in the MDI. One team will make a mistake, almost always. I don't think we've ever... I think the amount of times we've had perfect dungeons with 0 deaths on both sides is probably, like, less than 10% of the time. So I agree with you and what your friend said on that aspect. Like, it's definitely worth playing out dungeons where you make minor mistakes. Now, maybe if you make a full team wipe, if you have a full team wipe in the first pull, you don't want to play it out, obviously.
Oh, no, that's a zone out and try again.
Yeah, that's a reset. That's a weekly lever key.
Exactly. Now, Deplete from Beyond has Xanazal the Wise down to 40%. They're probably going to get one more set of totems. As soon as they end up killing the explosive totem and the earthquake totem, they should be pretty good to go. Method EU on Aka Ali, DPSing him down pretty quickly here. Once he does end up dying, that will be the final boss of the Council of Tribes, and then they will be able to move on. I think they're probably going to pull the 5-pack plus the 2 Berserkers, right? Because it's 76%.
Yeah, likely, and then if I had to guess, they'd probably end up pulling that 3-pack on the bridge into the Shadow of Zul, something like that for the rest of the percent.
Yeah, because it's teaming. I suspect that that's probably close. Important note on teaming: awakened mobs do give 6 count per. Under normal circumstances in dungeons, awakened mobs give 4 count per. So that's just something that differs on teaming that these guys have to factor in whenever they're creating routes for these dungeons.
Yep, absolutely, for sure. And we're going to see them pull this double Berserker pull with the 5-pack behind it, which is dangerous, but is definitely mitigated by those Hunter pets being able to tank some of the bleeds. We haven't seen too many major issues on this pull. Of course, if there are any deaths, the teams will be able to mitigate some of the problems by releasing instantly, since they've unlocked that waypoint by the first boss. But you can see 2 bleeds have now gone on now, and he's able to just get healed right through it. I mean, that's a lot of damage going out on the tank there.
That was a dirty leg sweep by Zalia once everything got grouped up to be able to mitigate a bunch of damage on Now. Currently, Now is getting bolted by that Hex Priest, but lines down the stairs to where the Hex Priest walks into melee. As soon as he walks into melee of those pets, immediately goes down.
Well, this is interesting. The Berserker is patrolling. I don't think they plan on pulling this, right?
Yeah. So you see Zalia there. I think he popped an invisibility potion is what it looked.
Yeah, the brute. Oh, maybe they're just going to pull it in.
Oh, there's...
No, they're going to reset it rather than pull the 3-pack, maybe? Yeah, that's what I think that's probably what they're going to do.
Yeah, so Zalia didn't have meld up, so he instantly invisibility potion. That's why he popped it. I was kind of confused as to why he used it there, especially since everybody else is melding, but he just didn't have Shadow Meld available. Totally fine play, honestly. Totally fine play. Rentari just got knocked up from Deplete from Beyond and instantly died to fall damage on the brute.
Here comes the 3-pack.
This is looking kind of awkward, I will say.
Oh, they're doing a very weird pull here. I mean, the trapping of the 2 Berserkers and then pulling the rest of this trash. This is like, yeah, it's a safety play, but it's super inefficient unless they're just planning on not pulling the Berserkers at all, which based off of their trash count, I don't think they'll actually need to pull, so it makes a little bit more sense. But it still doesn't look like the most efficient way to deal with this, because they're just going to end up skipping it anyways, right? That was weird from Deplete from Beyond.
Well, I think the brute just may have been in a really bad patrol. Then Rentari got knocked up before he could intervene. And like before he could intervene the brute to be able to mitigate all the fall damage, he just couldn't come back down and then died to fall damage. It's just like, oh, that's not great.
Whoops. Smile.
Yeah. All right. So Shadow of Zul has been defeated by Method EU. Shadow of Zul sitting at a nice 50% health there on the side of Deplete from Beyond. Rentari dropped pretty low there, but Igloo able to heal him through. Basically, now Deplete from Beyond needs a mistake from the side of Method U for them to be able to catch back up. I mean, we've seen crazier things happen. 4 obelisks with King Dazar on Tyrannical. Very daunting task, I will admit.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see them instantly cleave down Voidweaver Malthair as much as possible because they do have 3 interrupts. They're pretty light on interrupts for Voidweaver Malthair. So after about 5 casts from Voidweaver Malthair, they're going to start running out of interrupts and casts are going to be leaking through. So their single target focus is going to be all on that. It'll be the first thing that goes down. Once that's dead, they'll probably end up going for Beckoner of Chaos afterwards. And then once those 2 are dead, they'll be fine. But Jinji ends up going down to a Quaking Leap.
No, that's just unlucky. So
it was just unlucky, yeah.
Yeah, he got feared mid-disengage cast, and it canceled his disengage, and then he got Goomba stomped, and that's just RNG, sir.
Frackie going down 2 here. They do have 2 battle resists, but they have to somehow get them up now. There's absolutely no way they'll be able to deal with it. It's just 1 DPS. They have to go for the res right now. And I think it has to be Mira's because Zalia has to be healing people.
All eyes on Deplete from Beyond, dude. Look at that. They have now started passing Method EU and King Dazar's health. As long as they can make sure that this stays clean. Clicks and Igloo get kind of low there, but as long as everybody's able to get up health-wise, now goes down from the side of Method EU. This is going to probably be a full team wipe. Deplete from Beyond, dude. If they're able to down these obelisks, they're going to be in position to be able to take this first map.
How about that being the way that you lose a map for Method EU? That's what it takes for Method EU to lose. Not dispelling the right person. You didn't know that the Quaking Leap was going to go on Jinji. Getting feared mid-disengage to stop the disengage into the Goomba Stomp, and then it all just cascades from there. But it's not yet over for Deplete from Beyond. They have to deal with 65% of a Tyrannical boss, and it does do a lot of damage to the tanks, but let's be honest, the most difficult portion of the fight is over.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think we give these teams, like... So we see a lot of teams playing 3 and 4 obelisks with final bosses, and I don't think we give these teams enough credit for just how freaking difficult that really is. And that is just perfect case and point as to why it is so hard to be able to deal with that. Genji just... by RNG nature of the fight, ends up getting insta-killed by King Dazar. Now, Deplete from Beyond is in position to be able to kill King Dazar. Now, once Dazala gets dismounted, the fight's fairly over. Basically, all of the damage now that's going to come out is going to be incidental damage via Quaking Leap, and then Rentari is going to be taking the Blade combo. Prot Warrior is really good versus Blade combo. But, dude, I think we don't give enough credit for how hard it is to play 4 obelisks with the final boss.
Yeah, I mean, Tyrannical as well. You got to remember, these bosses are much more powerful than they would normally be on Fortified. In dealing with all that extra damage input as well, is just, I mean, these tanks can deal with it to a certain extent, but man, if one of your DPS goes down and those mobs live a little longer than they're supposed to, you're gonna eventually die, and that's what we saw happen for Method EU here. King Dazar now down below 30% for Deplete from Beyond, and there's nothing but the horizon for them. They've got a clean shot to a Game 1 victory against Method EU. It's just going to require some dodging of tornadoes and spears for them in their home free.
I mean, Igloo's starting to run low on mana because it is Grievous, and it's kind of hard to get people topped up quickly while not just burning through all of your mana as a Mistweaver monk. But with King Dazar being at 15%, I also seriously doubt Igloo has used his healing potion or anything, or his mana potion or anything. He's probably chilling. King Dazar is going to be going down here, allowing Deplete from Beyond to have a 1-map lead over Method EU.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought as we started this dungeon up and Deplete from Beyond pulling through, and what we've been talking about a lot now at this point, Dratnos, where teams need to be able to stay in a position they can capitalize on anybody's mistakes, and every once in a blue moon we'll see a mistake like this out of Method EU.
Yeah, that was uncharacteristic from Method EU, but great job by Deplete from Beyond staying in this map, and yeah, being within a couple minutes of Method EU's, normal speed is a really, really good place to be for any MDI team.
And, as teams start, kind of buying themselves more time and getting further in the tournament to make sure that they can qualify for that globals, it's not the best feeling of a win, but a win's a win at the end of the day, Tittles.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So Method EU had problems after the Machimba room on that pull with the Brute with now getting melee from behind, but that was even recoverable. The wipe on Dazar with 4 obelisks, that's just catastrophic. That's no way that you can even recover from that, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've seen so many times where we've seen, oh yeah, they've taken care of 3, they've taken care of 4, and we don't always, it's very different from being able to watch it, for example, versus being able to carry it forward and actually play through it themselves. So let's go over some of those replays. That last boss was ridiculously tough, but the rest of the dungeon also had some big challenges too with these affixes.
Yeah, Method EU did a great job of recovering from Now's first death as they went onto the bridge there. That was kind of a characteristic, Method EU, something goes wrong and it's not actually the end of the world for them. Whereas on the last boss fight, it's really not possible in the same way, And on the last boss fight with 4 obelisks, Method EU kind of hung in there for almost a minute after their first death, but things were spiraling out of control and they were never really able to stabilize and recover from there. And the problem is, once you have one hunter going down, you are losing damage, so you're going to get extra overlaps that you normally were able to beat. You're losing pet taunts, you're losing interrupts. If somebody goes and tries to get a res, there's 70 million abilities that can zone you off of that res. If you don't try and res them, then you're playing with a person down for the hardest part of the boss. It's a really, really challenging thing. I think Method EU, came pretty close to being able to recover that, but I don't blame them for not being able to there. It's a really, with 4 obelisks on the last boss, 1 death is often going to be the end of it.
Yeah, and especially because it takes such a long time to be able to res. I mean, you guys were talking about it in the moment there. So the last hunter to run over, res, without dying, without taking too much damage from Grievous, to burn the healer mana down when you have Tyrannical and Grievous, which is another affix combo we don't even see on live servers anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to do it with the turtle, right? He was trying to get the cast off, but at that point the tank died and the pull was over for them. Now, the thing I want to look at, this same thing happened to Method EU and Perplexed, by the way, in the semifinals last week. They both dropped the first map of a 3-game series. I I'm interested to see, because these two teams, Method EU specifically being our top team, they don't really go on tilt. This isn't something that we'll see really affect them, or we haven't seen it really affect them in the past. The only time we've ever really seen Method EU drop a series to what's looked like tilt was at the grand finals of our Springland in Australia last year, where they lost 0-3 to Method and A. Since then, we've never seen anything like that from them. So I would be really surprised if they didn't bounce back and win this game too in Waycrest Manor. That being said, Deplete from Beyond, we know, has a very good Waycrest Manor strat. Of course, not having Dr. J on their team.
I was about to say, Crest Manor, you know? There's a reason that it becomes his Haunted Mansion titles.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it is bolstering Waycrest. So...
You mean Hunter Waycrest?
Yes, I think everything's I think everything's thrown out the window in terms of strategy for how you deal with Waycrest Manor once it is introduced that is bolstering, because we've seen every team is like pulling the whole entire courtyard with Soulbound Goliath and weird stuff like that. So now you just kind of have to reinvent your strategies and how you want to pull the dungeon. So I think that's a big equalizer for Deplete for Beyond. I would be very thankful that they don't have to play against Method EU's Waycrest Manor without bolstering.
Yeah, but I think this is also just like the striking zone as well for Deplete from Beyond, because everybody knows about the Atal'Dazar for Method EU, and nobody wants to be in a position where they have to decide their tournament life by playing against Method EU on Atal'Dazar. So let's see how these teams do as game number 2 gets started in Waycrest Manor.
So immediately...
The thing to,
immediately
the thing to remember... Hey, let's talk over each other again. Go ahead, Tuttles.
Immediately Method EU, all 3 of their hunters pop turtle, was what I was going to say. Sorry, Zyronic, what were you going to say?
I wasn't going to say anything important whatsoever. Let's not worry about it. Actually, the thing that I was going to say is, I'm kind of rooting for Method to the Atal'Dazar game 3 here. That's really all I was going to say. But the difference in strategy, you're seeing the Soul Essences pulled for Deplete from Beyond, that's a huge question mark right away, whereas Method EU goes for the typical strat of going straight down to Heartsbane Trio.
I think we saw this earlier in a match. Dratnus and I decided that we did not like the Soul Essence first pull. It does give you some leeway for count, but the amount of time it takes to pull those Soul Essences for 3% enemy forces is... there's easier ways to make up 3%, especially in bolstering, we feel like. But maybe it is really challenging to be able to make up that differential of percent, and you just rather get it by those Soul Essences as opposed to getting it somewhere else.
Yeah, but the question at that point is how efficient is it to get that 3% trash count now versus like skipping a trash pack later on and coming back afterwards and doing a larger trash pull, right? That's the question that I have. But of course, I'm just a caster. I'm not a player, so my Lily opinion doesn't really matter.
I mean, they play the dungeon far more than us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They definitely do. So, but you can see the difference here, just in how far ahead of the boss that 3% trash set Method EU. They're already on to the second to last boss, whereas Deplete from Beyond is just now getting to the halfway point of the boss, so pretty big advantage for Method EU, I think, in my opinion, just for the 3% trash that they got on the board.
Yep, now Method EU has down Malady. They're focusing their eyes on Sister Briar. You do see some Toads and Acolytes. Actually, the Acolytes off to the side are both trapped, and they get a bunch of Toads underneath Sister Briar, making sure that Sister Briar dies before those Toads do. Those Toads, for some reason, still do on-death affixes. Would bolster up Briar. Perfect, very perfect execution by Method EU. Deplete from Beyond is going to be downing Briar. It looks like with the guard and the captain that patrol out in the hallway, going to be downing those simultaneously as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is interesting as well, because we normally see Method EU go for, like, we've seen this in the past where they'll go for like a patrol pause when they're dealing with Heartsbane Trio. They'll have their healer go out and paralyze one of the mobs in the hallway, and we see them pull that off here, just able to pull trash on top of the patrol, deal with that cleanly, whereas we're just seeing it mostly skipped by Deplete from Beyond, and this is going to be already just a trash advantage for Method EU. The difference, of course, being that Deplete from Beyond can start to sort of whittle down some of these mobs in the courtyard easily.
I like that Deplete from Beyond move from Clicks there. He pulls the triple witch back. Basically, it's teaming, so there's a witch in that pack for some reason. Or actually, it's double witch, but there's a witch in that pack, and then there's like a witch that can also spawn naturally via the dungeon. So there's the opportunity for 2 witches. There could potentially be 3 in the hallway, but there's not on MDI Realms. So Clicks did a really good job there, pulling the trash pack back, using his turtle, and then feign deathing it all off. Deplete from Beyond now has pulled a bunch of the hallway trash, merging it with some of the courtyard stuff. Dr. J dropped pretty low there. Igloo doing a good job of keeping him topped up. Method EU has now began a similar pull in the courtyard, matching trash count between both teams right now.
Yeah, and the thing to remember here is that Method EU is actually pulling more trash here, right? They're going to end this pull with a higher trash percentage. So, I mean, the fact that they were able to catch up on this trash percentage right here, they've dealt with the bolstering aspect of this dungeon a lot better than Deplete from Beyond has so far. That being said, there's tons of time in general left in this dungeon, so small mistakes on bolstering, especially with mobs maybe getting soul fetishes off, like they have here. Those thorn cards are kind of scary, but the binding shot should seal the deal for them. That was not clean at all from Method EU.
Right as Ironic said something about a soul fetish, I saw a 5 buff thorn guard that had 10% health left, and you're just like, I think I found it.
Definitely spoke too soon there. Both teams did finish off at 25%, so same trash count for both teams. Also, both teams going for the skip strat, having a hunter pull to the side, pull aggro. He's going to run away and feign death the aggro off.
Oh, Rentari's dropping low.
Ooh, Rentari. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that was scary, but the skips pulled off clean for both teams there. Wait, not quite. Gotta wait for the Thorn Barrage from Matron Brindle. There we go. Okay. Whew, scary.
Everything's okay. Not even close. Pretty even matchup for both teams here. Deplete from Beyond is 1% head in enemy forces count. Basically a trivial amount, right? 1% is not going to equate the difference in one full pull. It may equate the difference in one mob. Like it rounding is a thing in terms of like how we see the percentages. We don't see like decimals, so it could literally just be a few count difference, not even a few full percentage points.
Yeah,
right?
that 26% could be like 25.8 or something.
Precisely.
We don't actually know.
Yep. Soulbound Goliath is starting to drop sub 50% for both teams. I think it's likely to suspect that both teams are going to pull that corner pack with the double Thorn Shaper and the Thorn Guard, and then potentially the Acolyte Guard Captain pack that's in the corner in the hallway. Maybe both together?
Definitely one or the other. I don't think you'd pull both, right? That seems like it'd be a little bit... On one hand, if you could pull it off, it's definitely possible, but I feel like getting everything stacked underneath the boss for the cleave would be a pain, because there are some casters in both packs, right?
Sure.
So I think you would just go for one or the other. We'll see what they end up doing here, because they're going to start pulling them if they do pull them pretty soon here. They'll usually do it around 20% on the boss. We see now jumping towards the fountain, probably just to get the boss into the fire. So not actually pulling trash just yet. But I mean, if they're
starting to open up a 10% boss health lead, even though both Method U and Deplete from Beyond pull the boss at the exact same time. Method U accidentally kites Soulbound Goliath into another patch of fire just due to RNG of how the lightning ended up spawning, forcing Zalia to be able to spam heal. Now you see Genji and Fragnets grabbing both of those corner packs like we were talking about together. Deplete from Beyond doing something that is mirrored. I'm having deja vu, is ironic.
Yeah, I mean, they just said, nah, that's easy. Watch. We'll pull both of them. Watch us do it. Now, they do have to watch out for their bolstering management. There is a high HP Thorn Guard. I wonder if they got one of those heal casts off. I feel like it would have to be with how high it was, right?
That is a full health Thorn Guard. Yeah, I suspect that the Soul Effigy the Effigy Reconstruction almost had to go off.
Yeah, for sure.
Deplete from Beyond with the triple hunter comp.
Well, both teams actually had a heal go off. Both teams did. Method also had a heal go off, so they both ended up having to full single target one of the Thorn Guards down, but no issue for either team. Bolstering, they spit in the face of bolstering. Easy mechanic for them. Like the spits they have on all of their players right now, with Fraggy dropping down to 5% HP. He had so many spit debuffs on him. But Zalia able to wave the crane through. Zalia actually out DPSing Fraggy on this pull because of that as well, because he had to get out of dodge. Wow.
Blitz goes down for Deplete from Beyond.
Hey,
not going to burn up. Okay, so now they're going to start burning a battle res. I don't know if that's working.
I don't know about that. Yeah, that's
because now he has to summon his pet, and now he has to.
I wonder if the reasoning for that is because they're playing against Method EU. I feel like it has to be, right? You can't. Yeah, that has to be what it is. You have to go for that battle res. Either that, or they're so confident in their strat that they know that they don't need that battle res for the next 2 or so minutes that they just say, you know what, use it. We need it now. We need to go for the fastest possible strat here. It's got to be one of those things, right?
I wouldn't hate the confident play, to be fair.
I wouldn't either.
I mean, you got to go for it. something that is interesting from Deplete from Beyond that we don't see from the side of Method U is they are running triple dwarf on their hunter, which allows for easier dispels from Samrak the Beckoner on the final boss. Beyond that, it's I don't think Dwarf Facial maybe is useful for some of the Thorn Shapers that are out in the courtyard area. You can probably dispel off their Jagged Thorn cast. Anywhere else that you can think of that's super useful for that, Zyra? Maybe the Jagged Nettles?
Particularly. I mean, the thing is, I think it's more specifically that you don't like necessarily need the Night Elf. I mean, the meld is just like an extra aggro dump just in case, or an aggro reset just in case.
You're a hunter,
yeah, I don't know. You're a hunter. Yeah, you could just feign death. So I don't really know why you need an extra one. That's an interesting choice.
Pet that does 50% of your damage in a misdirection.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. An interesting choice, to be fair.
I think that it's probably the fact that, like you said, it's just splitting hairs at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Now you can see that Method U did leave that one corner trash pack up in this room of all the gluttonous. They'll probably end up pulling that into the boss at the end, like we saw with Soulbound Goliath. Maybe potentially with the witch from the kitchen as well, something like that. No, now it's just going in right now to pick up things right now because the witch does actually have a pretty large amount of HP, so they can just easily cleave it down.
Okay, so the third Tenderize is coming out here. Now needs to make sure that he's back in melee. Otherwise, that was very scary because Rawl he'll cast a Consume All ability, and basically if it goes off, you wipe. That's about the long and short of it. If it goes off, you wipe almost 100 to 0. It does a significant amount of your health. So now Rawl the Gluttonous is hitting 55% HP. That Rune Weaver is starting to get about that as well.
Yeah, they're going to have to stop cleaving pretty soon, right? Because you don't want to accidentally bolster the boss. Now, he is getting pretty low to where it's not going to matter too much. But when they do end up pulling that trash pack in, they're going to get incidental cleave onto the Rune Weaver as well. So making sure they're single targeting the boss down as much as possible here. The Rune Weaver's already low enough. They don't need to do any more damage to it. That's going to be the focus. And you can see they're pretty much stopping damage on the Rune Weaver completely here.
Yeah. So now you see Deplete from Beyond while Rawl has hit 50% health. Rentari went and grabbed that Rune Weaver and all of those maggots outside of the room, being able to just DPS those down. It's fairly free cleave. So look at the count differential. We're actually seeing the exact same count differential as we saw on the Soulbound Goliath encounter. It's that 1% count differential, which, like we were talking about earlier, doesn't really change anything. Like, it's not going to change one more or fewer pulls. It may change one mob.
I'm interested to see what the difference is in like pull strategies between the teams when we get to the second half of the dungeon after Rawl. We've seen some teams like pulling the dungeon section and skipping the Gloom Horrors later on, and we've also seen some teams just opt to pull the Gloom Horrors instead. Usually that's in a situation where you can pull the Gloom Horrors in with a final boss, though, which we know you can't do in this Bolstering affix. So I think the dungeon pull's kind of favored here. What do you think?
So we know that Deplete from Beyond versus Paint for Femme, they pulled the Gloom Horrors by themselves, which, I don't know, I didn't think it was terrible. Definitely could have, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what the best routing is in a bolstering environment because there's just so many ways that you can just make a minor mistake and then you have like a full health mob, or like the mismatch in health in this dungeon's pretty brutal in a lot of areas. So you kind of have to, like, would you rather play the Huntsman Lodge, or would you rather play more of the stuff that's downstairs in the Manor? You have to just kind of decide and make like major decisions as to where you want to go in the dungeon. I don't hate how Deplete from Beyond played this, but I think that there are some optimizations that could be made. It's just very challenging. Deplete from Beyond here is playing double Obelisk. You see that they have Urgroth and Samrak the Beckoner here together.
Oh, I love this POV that we have right now. Jinji is setting up the pull while they're finishing off Samrak the Reckoner. You saw him feign death, drop aggro, leave the rift early, and he's already set up CC so that they can pull this with the exact trash count they actually need from this dungeon. That was a beautiful POV from our observers. Major ups to them. Of course, Matron Alma does have much more HP than everything else, so they'll have to make sure they focus her down. But with the Hunters doing relatively even cleave, it should be easy for them to deal with that.
Rentari.
scary moment for Rentari there, but they're going to be able to heal him out of it.
Yeah, Rentari got feared there at the last minute. Both Method U and Deplete from Beyond playing those double obelisk mobs. Method U has began their trash pull. Now has popped his shield wall there to be able to deal with Matron Alma. Everything's starting to drop pretty low except for the Matron herself. That mama needs hitting.
Yeah, she does, and she goes down. That could have been scary. If she was like maybe 10% higher, ooh, that could have been dangerous. But they do have Soul Essence mobs available that now is not going to want to be anywhere near those.
That is a good Storm Bolt there coming in from now.
Could have been bad. Could have been bad.
Yeah, to keep that 5 buff mob away from him. Now they're pulling all of the mobs down in this Lord and Lady Waycrest area, except for that Diviner that is in the corner. That because these Soul Essences have such mismatched health compared to the Soul Charmer and whatnot, you have to kind of cut your losses, and you pull that corner Mark's sister in with the bottom part of Lord and Lady Waycrest.
Yep. I mean, once again, no issues with bolstering for either team here, as Deplete from Beyond has also opted to pull most of that dungeon there, and they're still missing that trash count, but of course that's going to come from mostly from this room as their Rentari hops down right now. But I mean, you can see the advantage at this point. Method U already onto Lord and Lady Waycrest, while Deplete from Beyond still has to deal with the rest of this trash here. I mean, it's Method U's in the driver's seat. They're probably a solid 40-45 seconds ahead right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say that. I would say it's about a 45-second advantage. Okay, so for Method U, you saw something really cool that Now just did. He heroic leapt away from Lord Waycrest. The reason that he's doing that is he's trying to make sure that Lord Waycrest doesn't cast his Wasting Strike on him. And by creating separation from the boss, you are able to just delay that cast. Then Now is able to get his Spell Reflect up for every single Wasting Strike cast, and like the damage that you're able to do back onto Lord Waycrest with that Wasting Strike being Spell Reflected is monumental. It is a significant amount of damage.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I almost, there's a mod that you can download for details which actually shows Spell Reflect damage in details. I wish we should actually try to look into getting that for the MDI cast too, because I'm pretty sure it's just a module that you can install. That'd be pretty cool to see, because it is a very significant portion of their damage. I mean, there are some fights, like for instance in Shrine of the Storm, the third boss, they can do as much or more damage than a DPS player if it actually shows all of their Spell Reflect damage. They do a lot of damage sometimes.
I agree. It's astounding how ridiculous Spell Reflect is. Notably on Heartsbane Triad and Lord and Lady Waycrest, I think is where I've noticed the most amount of damage. Obviously, there's also some stuff like Temple of Sethralus, Adderus, and Aspects you can reflect Cyclone Strike. Really overpowered there, too. Lord Waycrest is going to be going down here momentarily. The Mark Sister actually did not get pulled for Method EU, so they don't need the count from that, whereas on the side of Deplete from Beyond, they're the exact same... okay, so they're the exact same enemy forces percent that we currently see, but Deplete from Beyond has pulled that Mark Sister, so maybe they need the additional count?
I wonder if we've been splitting hairs this entire dungeon and we just missed that they somehow messed up a Shadow Meld skip or an Invispot skip at the start and had to pull it because of that. That would make way more sense than what's going on right now.
Well,
I mean...
Well, no, Deplete from Beyond pulled the Mark Sister the last time they were in this dungeon.
No, not this Mark Sister. I'm talking about the 3% trash they pulled at the start of the dungeon.
Oh. Maybe.
I feel like
No, they pulled it the first time we saw it.
That just feels so...
It's
weird
bad.
In general.
I agree.
Yeah, that's not ideal. But Method EU has now engaged Gorak Tool. The Bloodlust has popped. They only have to deal with the 2 Awakened mobs with Void Weaver Malthair and the Blood of the Corruptor, so really neither of the major difficult ones. Of course, they're going to just evenly cleave all 3 of these down because there's not that much danger of death with only these Awakened mobs alive. This should be an easy map 2 win for Method EU at this point.
Mira's taking a bath there in that in that goop there momentarily, jumps immediately back out. It's like we were talking about. It's like I was talking about earlier. If you guys were watching Waycrest Manor, whenever we were casting it, you can kite out the Blood of the Corruptor. It can be the last awakened mob to die, and if you kite slow enough, that Blood of the Corruptor's pools will actually despawn in the Gorak Tool Room. It's pretty dangerous, but as long as you make sure that you're stacked up in a melee and moving as a consistent group, you can constantly kite the Blood of the Corruptor's pools to be able to deal with him pretty consistently and pretty easily, just as long as you take it pretty slow. Goret Tool is dropping down now 22%. Method U has reached 100% enemy forces count. Deplete from Beyond here. Once they do end up killing their Awakened mobs, they will also be at 100% enemy forces count, but I think it's a little bit too little too late. Wouldn't you agree?
An absolutely fantastic map from both teams. Only 1 death for Deplete from Beyond and a clean 0 death run from Method EU. And boy, I'm excited. We get to go to a map 3 Atal'Dazar where Method EU can show off that sub 10-minute strat that they put up in time trials.
Oh, that's right, Zyro. And that's got to be a nice boost of confidence after that King's Rest fail they had earlier. So Method EU's tying up the series, and now they're going to one of the dungeons that, you know, they've been bragging about, and they have every reason to, Dranos.
Yes, this is gonna be, you know, this is exactly where Method EU wanted to be, except for they wanted to have won the King's Rest as well.
Just faster, you know.
Yeah, but it's a good last map for Method EU to be moving on to. We are finally going to get to see this Atal'Dazar. I'm really excited for this one.
Mm-hmm. And with this, sorry, go ahead and tell us.
It's a fabled Atal'Dazar. It's sub 10 minutes.
Well, they've been hyping it up, all right. They've been hyping it up the whole time, leading up to this week. You know, they've even started.
Beyond doesn't have a bad Atal themselves, right? Deplete from Beyond's Atal is 10:43. It's a minute behind, which is significant, but it's not outside of striking distance, right?
I mean,
exactly.
It's a 10-minute dungeon. Being a minute behind is a pretty big deal.
I mean, 10%.
My math says 10%.
Math. Woo! Great job of math.
I don't know.
Independently
Junkyard
verified.
Problems with math today.
Like, Junkyard's a 14-minute dungeon, but we've seen a 25-minute run of it, so there's wider.
There's a lot of variety that you could go to. Good point onto that one. Oh my goodness. But this Waycrest, before we go too deep into it, I think it was very well played, but man, those affixes really started putting like the punishment there, Zyro, having the only 5 boss dungeon on Tyrannical with high trash density on Bolstering.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy part of this dungeon. Bolstering, you really have to manage your trash. You can't just go and say, okay, it's Tyrannical, let's pull the entire dungeon. You really have to make sure you're managing your bolstering. And we saw, for instance, the courtyard. You can't pull the entire courtyard on one pull on bolstering. They had to go in, deal with all those little pups out there early, and then pull the rest of the dungeon. It just slows down the dungeon so much. And then, of course, 5 bosses on Tyrannical. That's a huge chunk of time, too. I mean, these times were probably 3 minutes slower than last week, just because of the affixes. Yeah. So definitely required a lot of coordination. And the thing that's impressive as well is just, like we talked about before this map, Method EU, able to come back from that, you know, sort of a tilter in King's Rest and able to play 0 death clean in this dungeon and take the win.
Yeah, without question. And let's start going over some of those replays that you got for us right now, Dranos.
Yeah, so I loved this play from Deplete from Beyond, where they had an unfortunate death, their only death of the entire run, and they made the call to commit a battle res that probably saved them 15 or 20 seconds over the course of the dungeon. That's a move from a team that is competing with Method EU and Perplexed. You know, that's the kind of battle res that signals you're here to game, and you're not, you know, you're not going to try and save your battle reses in case something goes wrong. You're going to play like the rest of the dungeon is going to go well for you, and I think that is really a different Deplete from Beyond than we saw in the first cup. So great, you know, showing up from this team this week. Method EU had a cool little innovation with their double obelisk, focusing down one of the awakened enemies and then using the other one as a kind of a springboard into this cellar pull. They had Gingy feign death and go and take the first portal that they made back out down into to go and open the cellar door. Pretty cool little technique from them that I think saved quite a bit of time and I think that was where they made up the most, or they opened up the widest lead that led to them finishing the dungeon solid 30 seconds to a minute faster than Deplete from Beyond would have.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things that we never really... It wasn't something we instantly started thinking about with the Awakened Affix. We saw it a couple times with, like, King's Rest, for example, of being able to pretty much just utilize the Awakened mob as kind of like a Shroud skip. That way you have somebody else skip ahead, pull the boss, it brings everybody out. Something along those lines, right? We've seen a couple different ways that it's been utilized, and I'm always surprised, Tettles, at how many different ways there are to finesse through Awakened that instead of actually just dealing with the mob regularly.
Well, ideally you just play it with the final boss. That's going to be the most efficient thing, right?
I love some finesse, though.
Or you just kite them around.
That's the ultimate finesse, all right? That's the top tier finesse.
Do you suspect that they... Okay, I don't believe that there's any way that they can kite Awakened mobs on Necrotic, right?
I would say no. I mean,
What do you mean? Why not?
Sure.
Yasma's gonna beat down your tank.
Just block all the damage.
Yeah, just kite away. I mean, you're fine.
Block the necrotic out.
Are you being serious?
Sub 10-minute
It's
Atal'Dazar?
fortified, dude. It's fortified.
The boss dies in like what, a minute?
What part of a sub 10-minute run is going to include reasonable, safe, sensible strategies?
It's true. Probably the best way to put
my white flag, and I agree with Dratnos. I think you're right. I think they probably do kite them somehow. It's
we've seen it
also
in action.
skittish, so that's rough as well.
You know,
No, that skittish is a bonus to the kiting strategy because your tank is
Yeah.
less likely to snap back the mobs. It's actually a positive affix for them here.
Wait, is it? Okay, explain. Because
Yes, skittish nerfs tank threat specifically.
is it
Actually,
only
true,
tank
yeah.
threat?
Yep. Every other player's tank or threat coefficient is unaffected. The tank just generates slightly less bonus threat than they normally would.
Never mind. Okay, maybe this is an advantage.
in-
I can-
It's the dream. The stars are aligning.
I want to
It's
point
time.
something out. Checked Twitter, just curious to see if anyone's tweeting about this match. Now just tweeted, I'm nervous for Atal'Dazar. You know what this reminds me of with how fast this dungeon is run? I think, and Tettles, you can attest to this as well, I think the most nerve-wracking dungeon that I ever played in the MDI was that very first Maw of Souls. Because it's so quick and so fast-paced that if one pull goes wrong, you're going to lose the dungeon. And the timing is similar to this Atal'Dazar. A good Maw of Souls run was like, what, 9-10 minutes back
Like
then?
eight and
Just
a
like
half
what we
to
have right
9,
now. Yeah, I mean, if one pull goes wrong on this speed these teams are going at, you're going to lose the dungeon. So this is going to be a very fast-paced dungeon where if one thing goes wrong, you're probably just going to lose.
And especially since we already have kind of established that Deplete from Beyond is going to be in striking distance as well. So, but how much of an extra time advantage do you get from kiting obelisks at the very end versus trying to cleave all of them down, Dratnos? How quick do you think of a difference it is? Is it the 1 minute between Deplete from Beyond?
I don't think I don't think it explains the entire 1 minute, no, but I think it is like a 30-second faster last boss to kite the obelisks versus cleaving them down.
Interesting.
But it is,
But
it
that
is a lot
risk.
sketchier.
Yeah.
What do you guys think the Bloodlust usage is going to be? Because it's
On
a
the pull.
944.
One lust.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
a
only get
one lust
lust.
dungeon.
Where do they use it though? Do they use it on the start of the very big pull? Do they use it for Yasma, or do they have some massive pull in the middle that they use the Bloodlust for? What do you think?
mean,
Wouldn't they have it for the last 30-40 seconds if they used it the second the key started?
nope.
No,
944.
Oh, that's right,
944.
944, yeah, okay.
There's like multiple ways because you could say that you use it on Yasma to be able to burn, but there's probably some huge pull that we're going to see. I guess we're going to watch right now. We can stop
Yeah.
speculating.
No more time for speculation. It's time for action as our deciding game is about to go underway as Method EU and Deplete from Beyond fight for that upper final spot.
Ooh, Method EU running straight down the
And-
middle right now. Running all the way to the mid pack is grabbing everything in his path. Deplete from Beyond has ran up to the right side, and they're grabbing a bunch of random stuff as well. Oh, reset. Ah.
Yep. It's unfortunate, but we had a little bit of a false start on that one, so we will be getting a quick reset rolling, so that way we'll be able to get everybody on the same page. We get a little preview there.
I'm gonna guess that that's not what their pull is.
Can you
It's not
imagine?
gonna be him running right down the middle, pulling everything. I don't think that's quite right. That was
not-
interesting to
not
watch.
the play.
Run it down mid is not the move.
Run it down mid.
Rush B.
I don't mind the run it down mid strat. Well, okay, so what we did see from Deplete from Beyond is probably their strat. They ran straight to the right side and then did a very similar snap from what we saw from Method EU last week, where they're grabbing all of the right side mobs. They're waiting for the bulwark of Juju casts to come out. Then Rentari shockwaves it. Then they immediately snap all of the mobs towards Razan. Double DKs blow it up.
I'm ready for that.
That's dope. It's a dope strat.
You don't think they're just going to yeet it right down the middle?
I want to see go right down the middle.
Run it
I
down
want to
mid.
see what we saw out of. Oh man, now the name is slipping me. I want to see
Angry Toast?
Angry Toast. Yes, I want to see mobs getting tricked. I want to say the tank getting tricked, or I guess misdirected in this case, and then the boss being pulled so he gets teleported to the boss
That's-
with all the mobs.
I think that's what
around
they're
That's
him.
what
gonna do.
Deplete from Beyond did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I think Method EU is going to do that as well. I think that's what them like running down mid is doing. I think that might actually be
I
part
thought
of the
that that
strat.
was their actual pull. They were going to just run it down mid, grab the double Dinomancer, and then snap
Snap it to Razan, yeah.
Yeah.
First
snap
pull.
the whole dungeon to Razan and just pray it dies
If you
before I die.
Yeah.
You snap that Diamondster pull as well, and that makes the kiting. I think I'm not sure if that's required for the kiting, but it definitely could help with the kiting the obelisk. So that's the plan at the end boss.
That's what I want to see. If you guys are missing out, we just had to get in a restart. So the teams just had a bit of a false start. So to make sure that the timers go at the same exact time, we are just making sure we restart, get everybody's cooldowns back available, everything that they need, and then we'll be able to start up the game once again. So we got like a very tiny preview as to what we're going to be seeing. But right now, they're going through the final bit of just waiting for cooldowns, preparation, and then we're going to get ourselves started. So this is going to be a very, very fast-paced dungeon on this one in Zaro, and it's just like the hype building up for it, because like you were just talking about before we false started, any little tiny mistake, and that's it.
I mean, there were some good bants in chat as well. I think if Awakened wasn't on one of the keys, and that's Method EU was like, Method EU said that's how we got our 944 no Awakened.
Got him,
dude. I'm so excited to see this. I just want to see how they pulled this off, and even if they're not able to pull off as fast as a time in competition, which would be pretty normal, just being able to see how they did it and maybe get some RNG going on their way to go close to that fast is going to be cool, because we're 2 years into the expansion, right? At some point you have to think that there's no new things that teams can figure out, but somehow throughout these 2 years they kept managing to figure out, and we're about to see it right now.
All right, guys, we're ready to go. Method EU, Deplete from Beyond. Winner goes into the upper finals.
All right, so we know Deplete from Beyond immediately runs right. Rentari is going to grab some of that trash. Now is going to continue with the running it down mid strat. Pops a Lightfoot, jumps straight into the pack. He's waiting for that Dynamancer double dinosaur pack to patrol. Actually, no, he's not even grabbing it. That is a 4 Sarid pack snap into the immediate binding shot to not let anything leap out. Oh my god, the sword's dead,
dude. It's all dead. Oh man, that's nutty. Yeah, that was 4 sword packs, 4 Sky Screamers, and then of course the way Razan snaps work is if you have if Razan's aggroed to you, you get snapped to the boss. So that's the tech play that we're seeing teams pull off, and it's all because of our 10th seed from the first North American Cup, Angry Toast, bringing in the tech that the teams are abusing, and that is where they use the Bloodlust on both teams on this pull. That's just so cool to see. Actually, Deplete from Beyond ended up pulling off more percentage because they went to that right side pack, but still, I mean, super impressive to see from both teams.
The right side pull is very scary and hard to pull off, just in terms of like the technicality of how you end up having to get rid of some of those mobs. Like you wait to shockwave and then you immediately get snapped, and it's just like a bunch of random stuff. So Deplete from Beyond is going to be downing Razan here within moments of Method EU, but Method EU with the crazier snap, I will say, is now running towards that living side area. You see Genji walking around. He's going to assume the spot, I think, on top of the ledge.
Yeah, he's getting in position to misdirect that top pack with the construct, so they end up pulling both constructs. This is an absolutely massive pull. It's bigger than what we ever see here, even on the teaming affix, and they have to make sure they have it all knocked up. But I mean, it's all stacked up. It's easy for the DKs to just burn right through it. Even if the bubbles go off, it's all already dead. Only the Colossi are left, and now it's just gonna get out of there.
Later. Doesn't even need Dwarf Racial. What is this? His Dwarf Racial isn't up from the first pull. He actually just... Huh?
Oh my god.
Huh? What's this dungeon?
This is just DK abuse to the highest level.
Dr. J Hunt
silly.
goes down on the side of Deplete from Beyond. Rentari kiting out the last Juggernaut with 43 stacks of Necrotic. Dr. J is going to be walking back here momentarily. Deplete from Beyond is not in a bad position.
They're definitely not, but with the way Method EU is playing with 0 dust so far, going for an even bigger pull, you can see they have that 7% extra trash on the board, and you have to remember, their first pull was 3% lighter than what Deplete from Beyond, so the pull they just pulled off with the Colossus was 10% more trash percentage from Method EU. That was an absolutely massive pull from Method EU, and the fact that they're able to pull it off cleanly and then go straight into Priestess Saloons afterwards with this advantage is crazy. These guys are still just going so fast through this dungeon. Yeah, Deplete from Beyond is also going fast, but you can just see they're half of a boss behind right now, and Method U is pretty much dealt with the trash. Now dropping low, you can see he's got 40 stacks of Necrotic. Now dropping low, you can see he's got 40 stacks of Necrotic there, and no Dwarf Racial to remove it, so he's just got to get away. But with all the trash dead, he should be able to reset that.
Frag and Mira's both taunted the boss to take melees, like alternating melees on Priestess Alunza to allow now to walk away from the boss to reset Necrotic stacks. Oh, the presence of mind there to know to do that is wild. Priestess Lunza here is going to be dropping about 5% health right after the transfusion. Transfusion ends up actually taking her down. Deplete from Beyond is at 50% health. They do have double priestesses still out, and Rentari's dropping pretty low. This is very scary. Rentari heroic leaps away. The boss, he has like a ton of necrotic stacks on him right now.
He is able to get the reset off, though. That's
okay.
the important
He's
part.
actually
They
okay.
get the reset. As long as they can get the boss relatively low here, the priestesses should die to the transfusion cast, but they're going to end up interrupting them anyways. As long as this final transfusion goes clean on Priestess and Lunza.
Oh, now.
I don't... Oh, okay. Oh, now goes down. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
they have the battle res.
Now was in the snap
how is
spot.
nobody dead?
Okay, so he got 45 stacks of necrotic and then just got melee down. There's only one trash pack left here. It's just that trash pack that's at the bottom of the stairs. There's no Saurids or Skyscreamers left in the pack.
Okay.
The Augurs have stopped casting their Wildfire. This is going to be okay. That was not ideal, but got a battle res. May as well use it.
That could have been a lot worse than it ended up being.
Absolutely.
I mean, just dropping the battle res, I'll take that any day of the week in a situation where your tank goes down. So good on them for that. Priestess Lunza is now down for Deplete from Beyond. I mean, both of these teams are like they're sitting on the edge the entire time. You can see how dangerous these pulls are. Tanks going up to 40 plus necrotic stacks and kiting it out, barely getting the resets off. This is, like we mentioned, about as dangerous as it gets.
Okay, so Karisu actually goes down to the what I assume is the fire totems from Deplete from Beyond, getting rezzed here, and then Deplete from Beyond will momentarily do a substantial pull with a bunch of Saurids, Skyscreamers, and probably this Augur Honor Guard pull. Whereas Method U has done the pull that is at the bottom of the Volcall stairs. They're at 100% trash count, so they're definitely kiting the obelisks.
They got two bosses left, and they're done with the dungeon. At 5 minutes and 30 seconds into the dungeon.
This is whack.
Is this going to be sub 10? Are they going to pull it off in tournament?
On broadcast.
On broadcast. No cap.
No cap. Deplete from Beyond here is staying in the match. Like, for what it's worth, Deplete from Beyond is positioning themselves to be able to have an 11-minute Atal'Dazar. Yeah,
I mean, you can't knock the 11-minute Atal'Dazar, which they're actually still on pace for, even with the mistakes they've made. Looking at what we have from Method EU, then they're going to go on and pull the same trash pack we saw from Method EU. Yeah, there we go. Rentari just running up the stairs to get the Stalker Patrol as well into this trash pack, and they're doing a lot of trash here. I mean, they have that one Skyscreamer pack that they didn't end up pulling into the first boss in lieu of that right side pack, so they'll have to actually interrupt that as well here. So there's a lot of interrupts that need to go out and a lot of stuns that needs to go out, but it looks like they should be fine with the DKs. But I spoke too soon as Dr. J goes down to an errant Venom Blast, it looks like, and he's going to release and run back to the group, opting to not use that battle res.
Yeah, Rentari uses that Dark Iron Dwarf racial, which works effectively the same as the Dwarf racial to be able to remove his necrotic stacks there. It looks like everything's going to be going down seamlessly, even though Dr. J got killed in the crossfire. The pull is still... Deplete from Beyond has had some minor problems, like just a little bit rough around the edges with some of their execution for these things, having like 1 or 2 minor deaths. Again, they're still in it. Volcall is down to 33% for Method U. Deplete from Beyond should be pulling Volcall here in the next 10 seconds or so.
Yeah, but I mean, as impressive as the runs both of these teams have put together, I think right now all eyes are on Method EU to see how they can pull this off. Volcall is going to be going down now at the 7-minute and 25-second mark. In order to come closer to time trial times, they have to get to Yasma, pull and kill it within 2 minutes on Fortified 19. That seems like it's easily doable. I mean, they could beat their time trial time here.
Okay, so something that you can see right there is that they've left the middle pack up. This means that Zalia is going to have to kite through the fire totems. He's going to actually have to hook around to the right side to be able to make his way through the fire totems because that middle pack is left available still. That's...
does the middle pack community aggro? If you pull the awakened mobs through community aggro, Zalia, those spiders are not friendly. I know you don't have to do the boss fight, but you can't hit those spiders. Come on, man.
Not even close.
Not even close, baby. Yasma now engaged for Method EU. They don't have the bloodlust available because they used it on the first boss, and they're only 8 minutes into the dungeon. Zalia now getting aggro on the 4 awakened mobs, and he's going to go off to the races, like we mentioned, kiting those awakened mobs. And all that's left for Method EU is a 19 fortified boss. And this isn't going to last that long. All Xaylia has to do is make sure he dodges that middle patrol.
It is Necrotic, but now does have access to his Dwarf Racial. He also has Rally. Apparently, you get a natural reset on Necrotic from Yasma approximately every 45 seconds. You see Xaylia here running towards the side, again, dodging out of the way of that middle pack. He's going to be walking up towards those fire totem area. Not ideal, but you kind of just hope that you're going to make it through, I guess.
Looks like he's got a good timing on the fires. He'll be able to make it through. He's got a great timing on the fires. The only other dangerous portion of the fight is going to place down his Transcendence here. He's going to do a quick little 180 around the room, and then once all of the Awakened mobs are up, he's going to have to port back down. And at that point, if the fire is there might be a little bit of danger where he'll have to like take a cast from Woodweaver Mouth here. But after that, he's home free. He can run back towards the center and towards Yasma's platform. Right now, doing the 360, he's going to let the melee mobs run close to him. The second they get anywhere near him, he's going to see him port onto the stairs.
Where's Urgroth?
Where is Urgroth? Wait, where is Urgroth? You're right. Wait, he's not going to go down the stairs at all. He's just going to go this way.
Urgroth?
He had to go this way because of Urgroth. Yasma down at 20% for Method EU, and at this point, I mean, he's just got to run. He can't take any damage from that Juggernaut, right?
That's at this point, he's just praying that Urgroth doesn't snap back. If you get too far from him, he'll snap immediately to your tank. Now would probably die fairly quickly to Urgroth plus Yasma without a healer, but
they've
Bethany, you does it.
Off.
Oh my god.
Sub 10 minutes in tournament on broadcast. It wasn't the
What
944, but who cares? 950, that's insane. That was an impressive run.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I just lost 10 seconds or something like that. Just having that